My name is Ashley Avis. I'm a filmmaker and the founder of the Wild Beauty Foundation. We've just returned home to Los Angeles from Australia after several weeks abroad, documenting the events surrounding the culling of the brumbies, the shooting of wild horses by air and on the ground. We have chosen to release the following footage so that it can be helpful for education, for awareness, and for any existing litigation that is occurring in the courts. Please be aware that what you are about to see is very difficult to even comprehend. As of now, as of today, we have 90 days to stop the next cull in November. Please raise your voice, and thank you for being Brumby strong.
Oh my God.
We've just hiked into the Kosciuszko National Park, and we have found this. This is the iconic Palomino stallion that you see in photographs that has driven tourists to come to this incredible natural tapestry, and instead you find violence. Another member of his family, a filly down the mountain, had been violently shot, and we come up here to find this, and this is not humane management. Penny Sharp, Chris Minns, Jack Goff at the Invasive Species Council, how you can condone this and how you can defend this as a method of management.
They did an aerial cull here, shot all the horses here.
Oh my God, is that a heart?
We've hiked out about 2 hours this morning with Kiki Sugar, and this is what we found. An entire family shot down. That is the stallion. And I hope anybody watching this has the courage to stay with me. And I think it's very, very important to see this and to bear witness, because silence and inaction is complicity. There's nothing humane about this. This is a mare that aborted her foal as she was being shot down. That is a baby. This was a family. There's nothing humane about this.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph, our final hour as the Country Telegraph. Next week we become the Pulse, and expanded programming. There will be many more, and not too far down the track, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which I can't wait for. Who needs sleep? The Brumby Culls taking place in New South Wales are devastating as they come after horrific killings in previous times, including the October 2000 aerial cull of 606 horses in Guy Fawkes River National Park by I call them the militia from Ukraine, but others call them the New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service. Since there was widespread public outrage over animal cruelty, which led to a long-standing ban on the aerial shooting of brumbies in New South Wales, only to recommence. Incredible, isn't it? It's worth mentioning that there is no single total for how many individual Brumby culls have taken place across Australia in the last 10 years. Culling is not done as single, isolated events. Rather, state and regional park authorities conduct ongoing multi-phase population control programs. It sounds like something out of an Orwell movie, you know. How dystopian is that? And they're using aerial shooting, ground shooting, by the way, silencers on the guns, which is any other country you'd be locked up immediately, and also trapping. Just terrible, then they send them off. So in several states, there are separate continuous eradication, a horrible word to use for a beautiful animal or life, and management programs in specific reserves because control work happens across multiple jurisdictions, agencies and separate operations throughout the year, rather than as a uniform national tally. A total count of individual cull events is not published. Many people, especially those that have been fighting against these cruel killings, and most, if not all, they're just traumatised, severely traumatised by the blatant and cruel killing. And I saw our panel then on that video, and the effect it has is just incredible. Just terrible. That community anxiety and mental health impacts are not hard to observe. However, our governments are so wrapped up in the eradication programs that they've failed to see what social and mental health impacts they have stocked. I mean, just think of it. Just to see that continuously, which we are, and it affects us. Now, our panel today want to explore the human cost of environment policy, which is, I mean, what a terrible, there's not a policy, it's just absolute mass murder, obliteration. And how the disempowered many community groups feel. They also wish to discuss the lack of social avenues or official support. I mean, Angus Taylor said that the locals need to take back control of the park. This is just one part of New South Wales. We look at other parts about to go through again the aerial culling of these feral pests. They're not feral, it's just a word the ISC or the New South Wales government has adopted to create more for their misinformation operation or information operation and propaganda. It's just appalling to refer to an animal that, or these animals, these horses that have, first of all, been there for 200 years. If you see the clip we play always of the light horsemen and how they just ran towards the guns, I mean, just appalling, absolutely appalling. Our guests today, they're just fantastic. Amanda Martin, a Brumby advocate, Dr. Julian Gardner, also a horse advocate, and Danielle Davey, who's a founder of Wisdom of the Brumby. That's a nature-based equine practice in North Brisbane. First of all, I've got to welcome you all here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good morning, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
First of all, and Danny, thank you for joining us again. Traumatic as it was last time, let me tell you, it was very traumatic. What's your views, just first of all, on what's happening to the Brumbies and how, as a society, that we've lost the plot?
Well, I mean, the psychological de-stress of what's happening, I think there's a moral confusion around, I think, knowing that, we think about helicopters with guns and, the killing, which inevitably means death. For me, I can't separate the two. I can't separate this as management, and then you think of weapons. It feels like a war. The government is at war with the Brumbies, and I just can't wrap my head around that. And that's really distressing. And I wonder what it's like for the locals hearing helicopters and the guns going off. And the ripple effect that has on Brumby advocates. I know for myself, when I hear a helicopter flying above my paddock, I instantly think of the Brumbies. It's a constant reminder. It's really distressing.
Amanda, tell me your thoughts, just before we get into the mental angst that is being experienced by many. What's your thoughts on how, as a society, we seem to have lost our way, and just to allow this to happen, it does play, it puts us in a really, really bad position, doesn't it, for the future?
Thanks, Mike. Yes, you know, hearing you say policy is usually something that is formed by including, the community. It's something that everybody should be involved in, and this simply hasn't happened. And just hearing Danny talk about the helicopters, it's the same for me. I actually live close by to the Caloundra airport, and we often of an evening or on the weekend have a lot of training, helicopter pilots are training, and I find it extremely distressing, even though I haven't been present down in Kosciuszko. I just find it, I was really surprised at the effect that it had on me. And for anybody, I just can't possibly imagine how difficult that would be who have been exposed to those things. But getting back to people and communities, I think there's a strong feeling of disempowerment and a sense of hopelessness, and this leads to moral injury, including profound distress and guilt and grief and depression, particularly with people who recognise horses as sentient bonded creatures. It was very interesting at our rally in Brisbane, talking to parents about why they had brought their children along. And for a lot of people, they feel that it is important for children to see others standing up for a cause and injustice in a respectful way. There were children there that owned their own horses, and they were finding it particularly, the campaign particularly distressing. And being there with others and advocating for the brumbies was the way that they could positively channel their distress at what was happening. I think these days children have increased exposure to what's happening in the world, for better or for worse, through social media. And a lot of parents feel that it's better to be transparent and to talk things through with children while they're processing what's happening, so they can respond positively and build resilience. My other life was actually in early childhood, so I found this, a really positive thing, that parents weren't trying to shield their children, and at the same time, though, doing it in a very respectful, careful way and not having too much exposure to what's happening. I thought it was a very positive move.
And Dr. Julian Gardner, can you tell me your thoughts on how, I think we've lost our way. I truly do. I think this country should not care about these, and there's a great number that do, but the majority don't know about it or don't care. And I just find it appalling that these beautiful animals are being slaughtered, and nothing really is happening. I think we've lost our way. What do you think?
Yes, Mike, I agree. I'm finding what's happening quite distressing and difficult to comprehend that our government has decided that this is the way forward, knowing how much distress it's causing people. Being in, seeing, images that we're seeing as Brumby advocates, hearing, the stories, and then feeling, I think people are feeling ignored because they're trying to have a voice, they're trying to say what's happening to these poor horses, and feeling like people aren't listening. And I guess, that can lead to things like compassion fatigue, where someone sort of feels like no matter what they're doing, things aren't, the message isn't getting across to the government, and they're being met with silence. And I just think that's incredibly sad, really. We're brought up, I guess, to look after animals, to protect animals. And here we are,
having to stand back and watch these beautiful horses being killed, and that has a significant impact on people. It causes a lot of trauma, causes grief and loss. People know, a lot of people actually spend a lot of time in the park. They know these horses, and to then have to stand back and not be able to do anything or feel like they can't do anything, I think is incredibly sad and distressing.
And by the way, Amanda, if you wouldn't mind just moving to your right just a little bit, otherwise you'll disappear off the screen. We can't have that.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm trying to go back to Danielle. What do you think the scale of trauma is, Danielle?
I think it's extremely high. I know that this year the exposure has that's my cat, sorry. Josh, goodness, sorry.
Poor cat. I understand. A poor cat.
Oh my goodness.
It needs love.
It's poor.
I can't help but say that it's interesting that other animals are having a bit of an input here.
They are. And we must listen to our cats.
My word.
Danielle has been, I get up in the morning very early, and we have that's really exciting. I have a cat who doesn't want me to go to work very early in the morning, which I don't either. And they are, this sounds like a very naughty, spoiled child.
Oh my goodness.
We're back. That's it. That was fantastic. But though, you need to be firmer with your child there, Danielle. Good luck on that with a cat. They have no intentions of listening to what you want to say. So back to the trauma bit. Sorry about that. That was burn into Catskill.
Sorry, Mike. He got his claws caught in the table. I don't know what happened there, but he's okay now. Sorry. So I think because of the intensity of this last year and the exposure, thank goodness to all of us advocates, and the petitions, and it's gone international. Yeah, I think it's really affecting people. And even amongst the groups, I think that's something else to sort of touch base on. People are fighting and disagreeing. And it's really sad because we all want the same thing. We're all fighting for the same thing, but unfortunately it's causing division between groups. And I really think the Invasive Species Council is doing a really good job at amplifying the distress because of the language that they're using, particularly when they talk about population methods, control methods, feral, pests, eradication. Those words cause damage. And horses have been a big part of our lives going back generations. There's a lot of people here that ride horses. So it's really in our DNA. It's in our blood. Our children ride. For myself, I have my business, and standing by brumbies, it's not statistics. These are individuals, and they're sentient. So to distinguish the two, you can't. It just doesn't make any sense.
Amanda, Brisbane's a long way away from Kosciuszko, not far from Yamba and Coffs Harbour, so it's coming closer and closer. And as far as we know at the moment, the brumbies are pretty safe in Queensland. However, governments will revert back to the old-fashioned means of control, which is kill. But looking at what's happening to the Kosciuszko National Park and the brumbies, my wife described it when she popped over a stream on one of our broadcasts, said it was devoid of life, and no birds, no nothing. It was like walking into a Stephen King novel. Tell me, what's the feedback from your members and your friends and just family, friends, and those concerned? Is there is the feedback to a point of almost despair, because no matter what you do, you have this intrusion upon goodness?
Look, I think that for a lot of people, they see we're continuously exposed to global atrocities, environmental disasters, then we have issues around our economy, healthcare, housing and aged care. And I think add on another layer of this unwarranted carnage to top it off. I think during these difficult times, for many people, despite experiencing a secondary distress, they go into that self-preservation mode and an inward focus. They just don't seem to have the emotional capacity to be involved. And it's got to be said that I have found that people will, appear to be very empathetic to the cause and acknowledge that it is absolutely dreadful. But there are other factors around, that people are fearful about speaking up. They often feel they'll be ostracised or there'll be negative consequences for them. Dare say that, as we know, there are people who view brumbies as pests, and this is often due to a lack of education and not having that exposure to recognise what incredible creatures horses are, particularly brumbies, and their contribution not only to humanity but to the role they play within our ecosystems. I think, also amongst the people that I've spoken to, they're feeling that, as Danielle said, there's a lot of divided emotions that are running particularly high, and this we often see out of character behaviours. And I just think that overall, people are very angry, and they particularly seeing that there's other alternatives. There's so many options out there, and yet the government have just rushed in and taken a very easy option, and it's an insidious option, and I think people are very angry about that. Sorry, I just quickly want to say that I think so. People are very angry because the government's not listening at a grassroots level. And we're seeing, they're difficult. The communication is very difficult to communicate with these people. We're seeing censorship and very unhelpful generic responses when the community members are trying to address their concerns.
Dr. Julianne Gardner, if trauma isn't addressed, where does it lead us? I mean, individually, how do we, because, it is very traumatic to see the images and then to understand that these animals they're just magnificent creatures of God and have done great service to this country and are not doing the damage that they have been, they're not destroying the environment, they're very good for the environment, but regardless, pure evil is just trying to eliminate the goodness. People, though, who are involved with trying to preserve the life of these animals, the trauma they're suffering, tell me, what happens if it manifests?
I guess, obviously trauma from any sort of horrific thing that people are observing can cause, sleeplessness, anxiety. It can impact relationships. As Amanda said, sometimes people can, behave in ways that they wouldn't usually because they're feeling desperate and in distress. And I think it's a real shame that, the people that are making these decisions aren't taking that into account, the actual traumatic impact it's having on the community, and where that could lead. I think it's sad that it's come to this. I think when, as Amanda said, there's alternative ways of managing brumbies, kind ways of managing them, and when people are put in the position that the community is at the moment, where they see something that is so horrendous and so wrong, yet they're not able to do anything, that does lead to helplessness. People can start to feel like no matter what I do, nothing changes. And, as Amanda said as well earlier, there's some, conflict going on within groups at the moment. And I think, the trauma is actually impacting on that. People are feeling distressed, they're feeling helpless, and that can lead to, people misinterpreting perhaps something someone said, or taking it personally in a way that they maybe wouldn't if they weren't under that level of pressure and distress. And I think, it's important for us all to remember we're all here for the same purpose. We want these horses to survive. They deserve to live. And, that's our, I guess, the key message. And if people feel like, that there's too much conflict and that things, there's infighting going on, that can cause people to step back for fear of, perhaps saying something that someone else might get upset about. And I think, that would be a real shame, because we need everybody's voice on this issue. We need everybody standing up and saying to our government, this is wrong, this is not okay.
Yep, I totally agree. And we get interesting correspondence from people. We have certain people on, and they don't like it, and I think, well, we're not going to. We're trying to remain neutral. Jennifer's and my wife's concern is the horse, and they don't give a rat's about the other politics, because we need to make sure that we achieve what we're aiming to do. And I do believe, by the way, that everybody's coming from a good place. I think it's part of the trauma, and I think if we can just sort of let that drop a bit, we will find that we will achieve more, because that's what they want. And we could go back to the COVID days. Government tried everything it could to put a division between those that did and those that didn't. And I was told I would be, I would die still here pretty healthy, except for my not wanting to get up so early. But and the cat keeps reminding me not to do that. But I'm just thinking we need to really collectively be a group. And the next thing is also to be able to expand our horizons. We need to get to those who aren't the ones who are preached to, out to the general populace, because I think legacy media, which they did with COVID and other issues, you don't tell the full story. And, there's a reason for that. They need to push through certain things, and all people need to do is talk. I got this email, a note from, her name was Susan Farmer, and this is for you, Danielle. She says, over here in the United States, we have wild horses everywhere, and people now give the mares birth control medicine to keep them from having foals. You could do that with your mares in the hurt horses stallions, and you can neuter them. That would also solve your problem. You don't need to kill the horses. Put them up for adoption. Sell them to the people that will give them loving homes. There are many, many other alternatives out there. And she says, what you do to those horses is wrong. And this is very, very bad. We have to stop having the horses slaughtered. And we do. And so what she's trying to say is that there are other humane ways out there. Government, the ISC, other groups, the shooters, and by the way, the shooters' parties come out in wondering why the ISC is pushing the shooting of horses. And I find that very odd that you would have a group of people that like to kill for a living, or not living, for a hobby, and shoot something that moves. And now they're saying that we shouldn't be shooting the horses. It's something that's not quite right with that. Again, you have to look where it's leading. Maybe it's this misinformation again, pushed by various government bodies which we get peppered with, or it's the ISC. Can I ask you, Danny, science, we don't have to kill anymore. We don't have to shoot the horses or let them die in pain and agony. We can just give them basically a shot. And I believe that can last up to 4 years, way cheaper than having to shoot them. How do we get, probably not just the government or the ISC, how do we get through to society in Australia that killing should never be an option anymore? We don't need to.
That's a good question. So how do we get it out?
And convince them that you don't have to kill.
Yeah, as you were talking, Mike, I was thinking about, shooters and game hunters, and, years ago people would hunt for food, and I'm thinking about deer and, in America they would have shot buffalo and all sorts of things. But we've never known of hunters shooting horses to eat them. So, it comes to my mind that there's a big distinction here that we don't do that. I think because the government has kept it so quiet, and just people don't know. So it comes down to educating people and getting the word out. And I think that's the key part of this, is making noise, creating a platform and offering something different. I think encouraging people to come back to conservation and looking at parts of that could be educational, because education is knowledge and knowledge is power. I think we need to change the story, the narrative, and come back to how can we support the environment and make this work. Shooting horses, it just doesn't make any sense at all. So those are my thoughts, really. I think on this.
And I mentioned that because I'm getting some emails from people saying that there aren't enough horses. I know that. But the first thing they do is kill. So we have an alternative now. We don't have to kill. The next thing is, to those people writing into me, that there aren't enough horses anyway. They're not, to say that they're creating the environmental disaster as they're purporting to is just absolute horseshit. So, Amanda, it's all very well saying that, and that was from that person in the States, if you don't need to kill them, we can ascertain that killing is never a resort. The next thing is not enough horses there anyway. So what they're wanting to do is just get rid of the whole lot of them, like they have the Bogong High Plains in Victoria. Tell me your thoughts on that. Why you think they want to get rid of? Because if you look at horses around the world, they are under attack. In the UK, it's by Natural England, which is very much like the ISC. The difference is Natural England has said, we're not going to knock any of these, say, the Dartmoor Hill ponies on the head. They can live there forever and a day. They've been there for thousands of years. Then we have over here the Brumbies. Now, Australia's a very new country. The Brumbies have been in the Kosciuszko National Park, for example, for 200 years. They are the environment. Why do you think the ISC, and I would probably think it goes way deeper than, the killing the environment. I would go so far as to say that the private donors have a monetary interest in the eradication of the horse, and as Chris Min says, the privatisation of the Kosciuszko and other parts around New South Wales. So it becomes more of a very, very evil way of saying that it's about the environment, not an evil way. It's an evil thing to say about the environment, where it's not purely about money, and they do want to eradicate every horse. What do you think about that?
Well, that is a good question, and that's why I've become involved with the campaign. Why? There's the issue around carbon credits and money, perhaps. I just feel that they have rushed into this. I mean, they just don't seem to embrace any kind of alternative. And this is what's making people so angry and distressed, that they will not look at the alternatives. And as we know, there are lots of other alternatives. It's almost a panic, you know, that we've got to get rid of all these, you know, feral animals. And, you know, it is just not acceptable. It is just not acceptable. These people work for us and they are not listening. And as Danielle said, I think that, you know, we have to get out there, we have to educate people and have work as a collective to empower people to make this change before it's too late. And we are on very limited time. We've got to get out there. We've got to educate people. Julianne and I have, and Danielle are organising a letter drop that will be our next little campaign, is to try and create a much wider public awareness, because it's certainly needed. And as you say, in other countries, this is simply not happening. It's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace.
It's got absolutely nothing to do with the environment at all.
No.
Julianne, tell me, what are some of the solutions for people who are traumatised?
I think, you know, it's about reaching out for help if people feel like they're struggling with the situation that's occurring. Not being afraid to let people know, hey, I am struggling with this, and getting support that they need. You know, taking a step back sometimes just to recoup and build up, you know, their emotional well-being again before sort of looking at what they can do next. You know, there is a lot of help out there. There's, you know, I've found people who are in the Brumby community, wonderful. You know, people are obviously very distressed about what's happening, but we're here to support each other. And, you know, if things get too hard, I think, you know, it's about being able to see someone if you need to see someone as well to talk about this, because what's happening, I don't believe, is, you know, we're reacting to something that feels morally wrong. And, you know, that can cause a lot of distress for people. Certainly does for me. You know, I've got horses. I go down, I hug my horses, and I think, thank goodness they're here with me. They're not in the park. And, you know, I think it's affecting people a lot. But there is support and help out there for people as well.
You know, now as we're going to wrap this up very shortly, we've just lost someone. We've lost Danielle. Danielle will come back shortly, I would like to think. Danielle, come back. The cat has got Danielle, so we'll come back. She's taken her away and eaten her. So I'll ask Amanda then. Amanda, out of all this, where are the political parties? Where is I see the One Nation. I have not seen anything from them at all. The LNP had a slight foray into this with Angus, but Angus Taylor has disappeared. How do we get to the politicians? How do we make them, who are our representatives, how do we make them accountable for sitting on their big fat backsides and doing nothing? And how do we make them do something? What would you suggest?
Again, a good question. I believe that part of the problem is that there comes a time when their capacity to speak up about these issues is censored, by other party members, perhaps. I don't know. I just think that we just have to keep going. We have to keep working on this, having rallies, educating people, building that, collective up. People, it's really important that people keep signing petitions, that we have rallies, anything that we can think that, any kind of strategy that's going to help the cause. I think that is very helpful for people that are struggling too, because it's proactive. Yes, it is time consuming, but I think we've just got to keep going with this. I think we also need to promote what is happening globally, as we've seen, that is happening to some extent. Just really having a voice, keeping that voice going, and also educating people, as you say, that this doesn't have to happen in maintaining conservation in the environment. I mean, we only have to look at some of the models overseas and the rewilding programs that are happening. Everybody can work together, and I think it's really important that we do work together, that we educate people around the brumbies, but also conservation. And someone made that point at our rally, that, why can't we allocate a special reserved area for these beautiful creatures, and, have an educational system of covering the heritage and the information about brumbies, in addition to the environment and all the other species that live in that area.
We are going to wrap it up because people have a life to lead.
Yeah.
Just quickly to wrap this up, and I'll get each of your opinion where to from now, but I think petitions are hopeless. I think we need to do an individual approach to the politicians, so they understand that we are very, very upset at what's happening, and this is not how, as a country, we should act. First of all, Danielle, I'm glad the cat didn't eat you. You disappeared before, so obviously the cat, which is your pet Bengal tiger, it sounded like it before. 10 of them, by the way. Where to from now? When as we've been saying online and chatting and stuff, that petitions, it's nice putting your signature to it, but they're pretty well hopeless. What about the individual approach to your politicians? And secondly, where to from now?
I would love for there to be public consultation across all domains. People that live in the mountains, that have grown up with the brumbies, they are vitally important to this problem, the problem of the culling. And I don't understand why that hasn't been happening. I know they do that up here in Queensland. There's something called a social licence, which is where the community are involved and they agree on a management plan. So that's where my thoughts are, and I don't understand why we can't be inclusive and stop this division, because that's ultimately where the problem is. We're not being included, we're not being heard, and we're being silenced. So that's where my thoughts are currently.
Julianne, what do you think? Where to from now?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to continue writing letters to politicians, getting the message across that, we feel this is not right. There are alternatives. Speaking out, rallies, and as Danny said, I think it's really important that there's inclusion here and community consultation. People that live in the area where the brumbies are, they know these horses intimately. They're the best placed people to be able to say, what's happening here is not right. I think we need the government to stop and take a step back and go, is there a better way? Because we know there is alternatives. And yeah, it's, I think, continuing to do, as Amanda said, we're looking at doing a letter drop. I think a big part of the problem is people don't know what's happening. This is all kept very quiet often. And then all of a sudden, we're told, and I think it's about getting the message across to our communities outside of New South Wales that this is happening, and we need people to stand up and say this is wrong.
You think maybe, and just before I have the final word from Amanda, do you think maybe that it would be more effective if we all went to the offices of the politicians? Because you write to a politician, one time out of a million they'll open and read it. Generally, it goes into the bin. So do you think maybe it's more effective, Julianne, that we all pop in, make an appointment, or no appointment if you don't want to, but peacefully, of course, and have a conversation with your local member, and maybe that after many thousands they would understand that there is a disgust of what's happening, and we need to stop this and get back to being a civilised society.
Yes, I think that would be of benefit, because when people sort of write letters, it's easier for them to be ignored or put aside. Whereas if you're actually going and seeing, your local members and having a conversation and explaining, what is happening, there's a lot of misinformation out there that's being put out by, people like the Invasive Species Council, and they have a very strong voice, obviously, in the community, and people hear that and they don't realise that, what they're being told is not accurate, and that there are alternatives. So I definitely think going in and seeing your local members and politicians to express how you're feeling about what's happening and asking for their support to try and stop this is crucial.
I totally agree. And Amanda, you have the final say. Your thoughts.
Well, I agree with all those ideas. I grew up in Tasmania, and I, interestingly enough, was involved with the Franklin No Dam campaign. And if you remember that, it was just all working together to find a solution, and we had a very positive outcome. And I think we've got to just work together and take on board what environmentalists have to say, and have a win-win situation. And thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you all for being part of the panel. I think it's incredibly important that we have this conversation. As for the divisions with some groups, it'll pass. I mean, I think we have all very good people that want to do very good, except for that one fake site, which I won't mention because it gives it some air, but there's a fake site that is pretending to be another action group, which is just absolutely terrible, to say the least. Danielle, thank you so much for your time. This time we didn't burst out crying, almost did. Most made me cry. Look, you're going to want to cry. You've got such a beautiful face. Thank you. Amanda Martin, thank you for joining us. This is, by the way, our final Country Telegraph. Next week will become the Pulse, and we'll be doing many, many, many more programs regarding the Brumbies and other important aspects of Australian life. And Dr. Julianne Gardner, thank you so much. You go and give your horses a gigantic hug from each of you, and a big sloppy kiss from me. To the
I will.
To the
Thank
horse.
you.
Thank you so much for your time. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. This is the Country Telegraph. And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. That's it for the Country Telegraph. Next week, starting in the Arvo, I can sleep in. No, I probably won't be here early anyway, but my work is never ending, let me tell you. But we have some great programming. Starting at about 2, I think we kick off. It goes through to about 7 or 8 at night, and it will expand. It will expand. We'll have a lot of shows about brumbies. We're going to make sure that we keep the good fight. Also about the farmers, but also about other issues around Australia. I have a huge question about some of the political parties and some that are doing very, very well. To me, it doesn't sound right. So until next Tuesday, because we're working very hard, Cam is rolling up his sleeves, Jen's rolling up her sleeves, my wife is rolling up her sleeves. The cats are too, by the way. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Look, no, I won't show you, they're still down. I've got to tell you, have a great weekend. May the Saints win. We're not going to make the finals. We only spent $58 trillion on players and they all get injured. It's fantastic. Come to St Kilda. Get paid for doing nothing, except getting fixed anyway. Go the Sainters. Have a great weekend too. This is and has been the Country Telegraph.
Tell my fool I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Brumby hoofprints etched for generations in the snow. I've watched the foals become the mares, the stallions old and slow. Here in the snowy mountains where my life began, across hills, ridges and open plains my fellow brumbies ran. I've led them through winter storms, drought and summer rain, but I can't outrun what follows now. Shield my family from this pain. My ancestors crossed the oceans, but I was born upon this land. These mountains are my birthplace, the Snowies are my clan. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. Tell my foal I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Stay close beside me, little one. The thunder isn't rain. The sky itself is hunting us, and I cannot stop the pain. I gather those I love and turn to face the sound. Though every instinct tells me run, there's nowhere left for us now. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. As I fall upon the ground, again and again. My heart grows quiet as bullets rain. I thought I had more seasons, more rivers left to roam, more sunrises with my Kosciuszko clan before the mountains called me home. Tell them I was born here, my grandfathers fought their wars. Remind them that this was our home. The snowy mountains were ours. Tell my fool I knew her fear. Tell my mare I heard her call. Tell my fool I tried to save them. Tell the wind how brumbies fall. Tell my fool I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye.